Or do you just think about, this is the opening I'm going to play?
I think in an ideal world, you would already have it all mapped out.
Yeah.
You'd planned it far in advance, just like with exams. But usually chess players, they stress out about it until the last moment. At least I do. And meanwhile, the game has kicked off. And it's the Spanish opening, the Roy Lopez. The moves coming very, very fast. And we've seen this plenty of times from Magnus Carlsen before, including during the World Championship match. And during the World Championship match, he was usually bringing the black rook across one square in this position. This is what and there we go, the rook does just sidestep any potential pressure on the A-line. And this is what we call the anti-Marshall. It's avoiding the Marshall Gambit, named after the American player Frank Marshall. And this position arose plenty of times in that famous clash between Nepomniachtchi and Carlsen. Giri must have done his homework here. Magnus knows pretty much everything there is to know about this position.
He actually picked up his h-pawn, moved it one square. Now he's developing his light square bishop.
But I think the players, they are allowed other windows just to check the rival games. That's the only way they know how to make decisions, whether to take a draw, whether to press on for a win.
Yeah.
But usually the players, they don't do that. They just focus on their own game.
Yeah, the time control, of course, is usually they won't have time anyways when it's getting into those critical moments. All right. Few moves here.
Yep, a couple of moves, and again, but it's very logical plans from both sides. White bringing the knight out, and black occupying a square with his knight that cannot, at least temporarily, get kicked away. And white's knight retreating out the way in order to create a square for a white pawn to kick back the black knight from his half of the board. This is still pretty standard stuff, but Magnus at least gaining some space in the centre, some more influence by the black pawns. From my experience here, I'm never comfortable with the black side. But then again, with white, sometimes the thing is, what do you do next? When do you push in the centre? When do you attack the black king? There's so many questions. And, OK, Magnus, he's the expert. Let's trust him for now. And the black queen just sidestepping. Anish, it looks like he has done his homework very well, however, continuing the pace, just bringing his bishop out there, maybe eyeing up that black knight. What do you think, guys? If you get a chance with white, will you take it?
Well,
OK, it's run away.
The question's been answered for us. Yeah, retreating the knight.
So, and he knows Anish needs to win, so he doesn't need to push it too much.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Anish does bring his bishop out, maybe trying to eliminate a key defender of the black king. The reason white has maybe a tiny advantage in these types of positions is because this bishop is usually so strong. We often call it the Spanish bishop, because in this opening, this is the key piece. If black can trade it off or kick it back, then black's normally doing OK. But right now, it sits on a great diagonal against the black king. And for example, if black is a bit too careless and just makes a kind of nothing move, a move that doesn't improve his position, you could well see a trade on this square, and suddenly the white knights might jump forward towards the black king. Also, there's a nice hole in the centre of the board, a nice outpost potentially for white's knights later in the game. Short term, maybe black is OK, no direct threats, but if you step back, that would allow the possibility, at least, of black pushing forward and trapping the white bishop on the edge of the board. This is always a dilemma. This is one of the things I still struggle with, and trap the bishop, because it does allow potential sacrifices.
And Ty did tell us that it is a must-win situation for Anish in this game.
This bishop is under fire after all, and as Jovanka showed, OK, he does take.
Ooh.
Wow. I was going to say maybe just plant it in the centre of the board, later use your knight to back it up. But he does capture on the d4 square, and
Surprising moves all round for me.
Whoa.
Because taken with the e-pawn, I mean, like, really? I mean, again,
you normally capture towards the centre, right?
And David said you've got the open c-file where the queen is. Why are you taking this way around? It's this is his idea, I guess. He's going c4, but really did not expect any of this. And maybe even the white knight can come out g3 to h5, and I don't know. I don't know if I like this from black.
Yeah, it feels like Magnus is trying to be ambitious as well, and maybe that will backfire. Meanwhile, I'm surprised by every single move in this game. This one as well, a bit loose. The general rule is don't touch pawns on the side where you're weaker. And here, this is where black is trying to push. Black is the one initiating the play. So for white to push his pawn forward as well, very, very surprising. OK, he doesn't do this. I was going to say this pawn is a potential target later on. But then again, black cannot access this open file because white's bishop stops the rook using it. So, OK, therefore, Magnus decides not to clarify the tension, and he wants to trade the bishops off. Maybe swing this rook across. And Magnus, I guess he's just not being too materialistic. He's just hoping that the position will open up for the bishops. And, OK, meanwhile, we didn't see that happen. We do see a trade instead.
And you're playing with this knight against the dark square bishop. That also seemed a very promising positional way to play, but maybe not enough to win.
Magnus will go for this.
Blocked it down.
He does block it down. Wow.
This is a little bit surprising,
Surprises
right?
on every turn, yeah.
Putting your pawns on the same colour square as your bishop is not supposed to be a good idea because your bishop gets more blocked in. But he does get a load of space over there, so I guess it's one exchange for another, but still a bit surprising there.
Magnus just needs a draw. And why not simplify the position a little bit? And OK, here we go.
Wow.
Bad
Magnus
bishop
really,
extraordinaire.
Yeah, Magnus really doesn't care about his bishop.
He's just got to go b4 and he's done the perfect pattern, hasn't he? He's like everything on the dark squares here.
Look at this. I mean, he's really lucky White doesn't have a light squared bishop. Yeah. Otherwise, this would be disaster. Anish may be a bit nervous, dropping lower on the clock than Magnus. And in the end, just playing an innocent pawn move. OK, Magnus going for a similar idea to the one I mentioned. He wants to take over on this A file before White does.
So you can just aim to target them, and that's what he's going for. So he's going for this pawn push and going to try to put those...
You've also sprinkled your magic dust on all the players. Every game today, we've seen the move H4 at some point.
I know, yeah, it's going.
On that subject of H4, Houston's Aft actually tweeted us a super cool poem about Harry.
And I wanted to attach a camera to a balloon. I wanted to get a little Harry, just send him up into space. Maybe one day, crowdfund it. It'd be quite good footage for the show.
Yeah,
could be.
A lone Harry would just be a pawn.
You can buy...
You can buy stuff. It's kind of cheating, though, isn't it?
Oh, but whoa, we have a result, you guys. Andrei Esipenko has won the game against Levon Aronian, and that must mean that Esipenko is qualified. I think quite certain, but does it also mean that Levon Aronian is out?
Wow, and only 20 moves. Levon making a massive blunder early in the game with White.
No.
You rarely see that, but fair play to Esipenko. He spotted a mistake. It wasn't obvious, and he pounced to win that game. So, meanwhile, in this one, still manoeuvring around. Black has conquered this A file with the black rook, with the black queen, but what to do with it? That is the big question. White's knight, meanwhile, very, very stuck.
All the way up onto the B5 square.
Definitely in an endgame if the rooks and queens come off.
Here it comes. I can't believe if he gets the king all the way to that dark square, which is B4, that would be phenomenal. And actually, pretty good idea, right? Controls that open file. OK, he's got to get the queens off.
I reckon the queens are going to try to come off, and then, once the coast is clear,
off you
the
go.
king is running.
Wow.
All right, well, the bar jumps up a little bit for Anish. With one game finished, I just wanted to take a quick look at the live table. Esipenko winning that game, gaining 3 points. All the other games still going on. Esipenko in second place. Anish Giri can overtake him. Ding Liren can go past him when he started, yeah.
So that'd be tremendous result for him.
Incredible performance.
Definitely some chances. I'm very surprised, I must admit, by this king march. Yes, it's the artistic way to do it, but Black's king is not entirely safe on this side of the board. And it does feel like White's queen is going to cause a lot of annoyance over the next few turns. Unless Black can get the queens off, I think Anish might be the one having the fun. And look what White's done. He's put his pawn on B4 before the Black king can get there. And yeah, it just feels bit scary now from the black side, if the white knight can somehow join the action.
Now that black doesn't control that A file anymore, now that black's king can always be checked, as it has happened here, it seems like there's, even whatever the computer says, there's quite a lot of danger for Magnus in this position, because he has to be very careful.
Yeah, will we see a repetition of the position? Black is offering the queen trade. Anish has to decide now. If you take the queens off, that will only favour black. And that is because this pawn is on a dark square. Black might pick it off later in the game. So Anish cannot swap queens. He wants to keep the queens on. But if he retreats with a check, this is blocked. If he goes forward with a check, this is blocked. And that would repeat the position. Let's go back to the players. If he wants to win, OK, he does keep the queens on the board.
Right,
no queen trade. Where it started, why did the queen not just put itself on light squares earlier, stopping white's queen getting in? Now white's queen is in. It's all sorts of trouble for black.
Pester Anish with that offer of queen trade.
OK, but then there would just be a check and... Oh, whoops, not that check. This check. And white's queen could escape the trade. So, OK, he goes for the second plan, the safer plan. I don't think you need to rush with this move. You want to prepare it first. He drops his knight back.
It's just torture for black. It's absolute torture, because you can see black is just losing a move, white improves, losing a move, white improves. This just seems like incredibly tough, no? I mean, you know, when the knight gets the square it's heading for, white can push at the right moment. I just hate to be black in this position.
Yeah, fully agreed. And Magnus continuing this dance with the queens, trying and hoping, praying that they come off the board. But Anish will try and keep them on if he can. And he would love to keep the queen on this diagonal, if possible, in order to stop the black rook coming back down and threatening some pawns.
Do you agree with the bar saying 1.4 advantage? Quite a big advantage for Anish.
I mean, here in this type of position, I think we would just discuss Grandmasters. We would just say it's easier to play with white. White is the one who can take the draw at any moment if he wants. Black is the one struggling and defending. It's definitely easier to play with white. Okay, but repeating the position, this is the second time we've seen this position. Okay, Anish needs to find a different square for the white queen.
I don't think he will take the draw. I think we're safe there. I think he will...
Oh.
Has he taken a draw?
Well,
that is
I'll
crazy.
eat my words.
Really?
What?
Wow.
Okay, Magnus, meanwhile, smiling. Anish bailing out with the draw. He could have kept the game going another 20, 30 moves and then gone for the same draw.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. You can just keep the queen going. Black's... No, I don't understand that at all.
Black has no plan.
I don't understand it. Just move the queen all the way back, get it out the way, play small. Yeah, I mean, really, really strange decision.